guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make these sweater rompers that you guys love so much. This one and then this one. Thank you so much for your patience. I know it's taken me a little while to get this out to you guys, so I appreciate you guys being patient with me. A couple things before we get started though. Number one, if you don't know how to use patterns or work with patterns, I highly suggest you go check out my YouTube video that I'll link in the description on how to work with patterns so that you're not lost in the beginning. Second of all, I will be using this guy to cut my sweater up. If you don't have this, a pair of scissors will work perfectly fine. And then third, I will be using my serger machine to do most of this. But if you don't have a serger machine, that's totally fine. You can just use your regular machine. So you'll just sew like normal with your regular machine. And then fourth thing, I know you guys all kind of wonder about the sizing of the sweaters that I upcycle. So I think both of these were like a large in adults, which most adult sizes work for upcycling for baby clothes, at least for my daughter, because she's 9 months old. If your kiddo is a little bit bigger, what I suggest you do is the pattern that you will download, which I will link in the description, comes with the ability of you to print it out and kind of paste or tape it together. So I would suggest maybe taping that part together, maybe even just the first part, like the front piece of the bodice. So it would be just like this part right here. That front part pattern piece, I would take it with you to the thrift store and then kind of just like hold up your sweater, hold up the pattern piece and see how it's going to all lay. And if you have enough fabric, if you like where the pattern or the image is, that way you can kind of know that you'll have enough material for the romper. And like I said, most adult sizes do work, but if you want to be safe, just go with a little bit larger of those sizes. So that is all. All right, let's get started. So first thing you're going to want to do is take apart your sweatshirt. So you'll start by cutting it up at the seams. So start with your sleeves here at the seam, and then your neckline, and then down at the waist. Cut off that waistband. And then you'll also want to cut off your cuffs. When you're cutting, you want to make sure you're careful with those bands. You don't want to cut too much into them. You want to make sure you preserve as much of those bands as possible, especially at the neckline. Make sure that you have enough to reuse that neckband. Okay, so now you have your front and back pieces, your sleeves, your cuffs, your waistband, and your neckband all cut out. So now you want to cut out your pattern pieces. So I have a protector, so I'm just going to lay my piece here and kind of line it up to where I want to cut it. If you don't have a projector, that's totally fine. You can just use your pattern piece and lay it on top of your fabric and cut out where you want it to be cut out. Alright, so now that I have all my pieces cut out, I have my sleeves, I have my front and back. Now I'm just going to cut up my neckband and arm and leg bands. So for my leg bands, I like to use my waistband for that, and then I'll use my neckband for my neckband, and then my armbands for my armband. Okay, so I've already kind of started cutting. This is my waistband. It's you can see it's double layered because it's folded in half. So I've laid my waistband down where my leg band pattern is, and I've laid it down with the open side out, and then there's a folded side on the other side. And now you're just going to kind of cut along the three sides, the two shorter sides and then the longer side, and don't cut the other side just yet. Okay, now that you have cut out those three sides, just make sure they're nice and even. And then you're going to open up that leg band. Like I said, it's double layered. So now you kind of have that. So then you're gonna just cut it in half. So I do this just because it kind of helps speed up the process a little bit, and then you get 2 leg bands cut out in that process. So now you can cut out your armbands. So you'll just cut down the seam just like this. This one is also double-sided. So once you cut down the seam, you're going to open it up, so cutting down that long side that's been stitched, not the one that's folded. Okay, so now that you have that open up, you're going to line it up with your pattern and cut it out. Remember to follow those pattern guidelines. Okay, now for the neckband, similar to those other cuffs, you're going to cut it in half and then cut it open. Alright, just real quick, I'll show you. Once you have it all the way open, you're just going to lay it flat and do the same thing that you did with the cuffs. Okay, so I already kind of cut the bottom, so this was a little longer. I kind of just matched it up the best I could. With upcycling, it's never going to be perfect. You just kind of have to go with what works best. So this is kind of, I like this. I feel like it's pretty good, and that's what I'm going to go with. So I just cut the bottom. It was a little longer. That was pretty much all I did to the hood. Okay, now you have your front, your back, your leg bands, your sleeves, your armbands, and your neckband, and your hood if you're using a hood. And now you're going to take the back and the front and you're going to lay them together with right sides together. And then you're just going to pin or clip them at the seams up at the shoulders. Alright, now just go ahead and sew across both of those shoulders. Okay, now it's time to add your neckband or your hood. So for your neckband, you're going to fold it in half and you're going to sew across. Once that's sewn across, you're going to take it and you're going to open it and fold it in half long ways. And then just start pinning it so that it stays folded in half. Okay, so now that it's all pinned, we need to quarter off or make it equal sides. So start where your seam is here. You're going to find that, and then you're going to kind of just lay it flat like this, and then find the equal side of that seam. So that would be right here. So move your clip over and mark that. So then you're going to bring your 2 sides into the middle, meet them there, and then kind of lay it flat again, and then find those other sides and pin them. And now you have 4 equal corners that you'll be adding to your neckline. So to add that, you're going to first make sure your garment is inside out, and then you're going to find your seam here, and you're going to clip that to the inside of your garment. And make sure that you're lining up your raw edges to match. So then you'll find the middle of your front piece and you'll clip that there. So now you have your front and your back pieces added onto the neckline. So now you'll grab those two front and back pieces. You're kind of gonna give it a good stretch. And then once you find that good spot there, you'll do that the same thing to the next side. So give it a good stretch, and then when everything lines up, pin that there. And then you can add a few more pins to kind of make it easier when you're sewing. And just so you know, the neckband is always going to be smaller than the neck hole, and that's completely normal. We are going to stretch it as we go to kind of make it all line up evenly. And when you're adding more clips, make sure that you're doing the same thing where you're stretching those pins at the sides and clipping in the middle when everything lines up. So now we're ready to sew all the way around. And like I said, you're going to stretch your neckband to line up with your neck hole. So you'll just start sewing. As you can see here, it's a little bit bigger, so just stretch and sew. Make sure everything's lining up. Make sure that you're grabbing all three layers of that neck hole. And then yeah, just stretch and go. And there you have your neckband placed. So if you're going to do the hood, you are going to start off with your piece here inside out, and then you're going to grab your hood. And I kind of wanted to show you that if the hood is too big, you can kind of make little folds to make it a little smaller, and I'll show you how I did that. So I just grabbed the piece and kind of folded itself over just like this, and you can make that fold as big or as little as you need it to be able to match up with that neck hole. So once that fold is good, I'll clip it, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side, where I will kind of just fold it under and then pin. This will all be different for each garment that you do, but just know you can adjust that hood if it's too big by doing those folds. So you'll find the middle of your back and the middle of your back hood, and you'll clip that inside of your bodice piece. And then I kind of just clipped my ends together, and now I'm going to stuff that inside. Alright, once that's in, you're going to grab that front piece, and you're going to find the front of your bodice piece, and then you're going to clip it there. Now you have your front and your back clipped, so now you're just kind of stretch, kind of like what we did with our neckband. Find that good meeting place where everything's nice and even, and then you're just going to clip it. Same thing, you're just going to line everything up. Everything meets and it's kind of even, you'll clip it. Alright, so now that you have everything in place, you like how it looks, you can just go ahead and sew all the way around. Alright, so now that we either have your neckband or your hood on, you're going to now put on your sleeves. So what you'll do is you'll fold your sleeve in half, and you'll find that middle. And then you're going to place that with the right sides together onto your piece here. So right sides together in the middle of that shoulder seam, line it up, and then you're going to find that point here, and you're going to line that up with your point at your sleeve and clip. Same thing to your other side, find that point and clip. And just like with everything else, give it a good little stretch until everything lines up evenly, and then clip. Sleeves are a little tricky to put on, so just kind of work through it and line it up the best you can. Alright, so now that we have our sleeves on, we are going to sew down both of those sleeves. Okay, so now we have attached to our sleeves. So now what we're going to do is grab the back side or the front, doesn't matter, and fold it over so that the right sides meet together, and then kind of just align everything, your sleeves with your sleeves and your body with your body. and then you're just going to clip and sew the sleeves and the sides. Okay, now it's going to look a little like this. So now all you need to do is add your cuffs. So we're going to grab our arm cuffs and fold it in half long ways and clip or pin it. Same with the other. And just sew down both of these. Okay, now that you've sewn them down, you're going to take it and you're going to open it, kind of flipping it in half. Make sure that those seams that you just folded are inside that fold so you can't see them. You're going to line it up so those raw edges meet. And then you're going to do some pinning. So that right there is where your seam is, where I just marked. And then you're going to kind of just find that equal side of that. So kind of just fold it in half, and then you have two equal sides. Same thing with the other one, and now you just attach. So for me, it's easier to attach cuffs when it's inside out. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it inside out, and then find your sleeve here, and you're going to kind of fold it so that you kind of have those two sides, and then you're going to line up those sides. So line up that fold there with the other fold. Okay, so now you're going to find your other side. This is the one with the seam, so you're always going to want to line up your seam with your seam. So line those up and clip them together. Okay, so now you have both your sides there clipped. So now what we're going to do is grab those two clips, and then you're going to give it a really good stretch so that everything lines up. And bring it up, make sure all of those raw edges meet, and then same thing on the other side, stretch and pin. Okay, so now that you have that done, you're ready to sew all the way around. Remember that you need to stretch that band so that it fits around that sleeve. Okay, now that you have your arm cuffs on, you're going to now add the leg bands. So you're going to open it up, you're going to lay it on its side, just like this. And then you'll grab your leg bands and you're going to fold it in half long ways. So just start folding it in half and clipping. Sorry, my video cut out, but basically I just folded it in half and clipped it. And now you're going to attach it with the raw sides facing up all together. So I'm going to start by matching it up at that edge there with all raw sides together, and then you're going to start clipping. And then you'll clip that one end, and then you'll clip the other end. Okay, now you're going to give it a really good stretch. You want to make sure that you're stretching as much as possible because this leg band seems to be a lot smaller than most. So find that middle, clip it, and then kind of continue to do the same thing. So find the end, find the middle, and then stretch. So line it up, find a good meeting spot, and clip. So as you can already see how much is left, it's fine. All we're going to do is continue to stretch. So same thing with this side. Grab your end and grab that middle and give it a good stretch until everything kind of lines up the best it can. I just walk my fingers into the middle spot that I want and then clip. So it will look a little like this. Now I'll do the other side. So once both sides are done, it will look like this. And now you're just going to sew across both. So you'll start just giving it a good start and then just really stretching. So as you can see there's a lot of fabric that's bunching up. Just continue to stretch and making sure that all of those layers are being sewn together. As you can see, I'm just giving it a really good stretch as I go. And it's always important to continue to adjust your fabric to make sure that everything is being sewn together. So go slow on these parts, especially when you're new. The slower, the better. Alright, now you have it attached to your piece and it will look like this. Now all we need to do is finish the bottom. So we're going to sew across, finish those edges. If you don't have a serger, you can just do a zigzag stitch to finish those edges. So either serge across or zigzag stitch across that end. Now that I have it here sewn across, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that up by 1/2 inch. And then you're going to clip. Alright, and now I'm just going to sew across here. And I have to use my regular sewing machine for this. So it's always good to still have your regular sewing machine to be able to sew across and finish things like this. Alright, now all that's left to do is to add our snaps. You always want to make sure that you're adding them correctly so that they are able to snap together. And if you don't know how to use snaps, I have linked a video on how to do snaps in the description. And there you have it. Great job, everyone. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Thank you so much for all your guys' support. I really, really appreciate it. I'll see you next time.